What's up? It's Josh Todd from IBuckcherry. You're listening to Thunder Underground. Check it out.
Welcome to episode 423 of the Thunder Underground podcast. Trent here as always. And as you heard right there in that intro, we've got a great one because Josh Todd is back on the podcast. Josh was here right about almost exactly 4 years ago, episode 321. Pretty easy to remember, 321. IBuckcherry has a song called 54321 on their Hellbound album. If you're a IBuckcherry fan, that should be easy to remember. So after this episode's done, hear about some new stuff, jump back on that one because we talk a lot about Hellbound and, of course, a lot of past stuff and other things throughout the IBuckcherry history, just like we do on this episode. We talk a lot about the brand new album, Roar Like Thunder, that comes out this Friday. And, of course, we also talk about some past stuff in the IBuckcherry history, some forthcoming things as well. So got a lot of stuff here to talk to Josh Todd about, so excited for you to hear this one. But before we jump into the talk with Josh, I need to let you know who sponsors this podcast. Sunset Tattoo is a tattoo shop located in Midtown Tulsa. Their tattoos are done good and proper. They're state licensed, Native American owned, and they have a female artist on staff full time. If you give them a call or shoot them a message, you can set up a consultation to talk about what work you're looking to have done. If you've got an idea ready to go, of course, that's easy for them. If you're looking for some help bringing your idea together, they're great at that. You can check out photos of all their work throughout the years at their socials, Sunset Tattoo Tulsa, on both Instagram and Facebook. I've had work done by Jake at Sunset Tattoo more than once, and I'm very happy with it. I know many others that have as well. So you need to get over there and tell Sunset Tattoo you heard about them right here on Thunder Underground. We also got DEB Concerts, our longest running sponsor, who has been bringing great acts to the downtown Tulsa area for many years now at both the club level and the arena level. But they've also been booking the Roadhouse DEB concert stage at Rocklahoma for the past several years as well. Rocklahoma, just like the past few years, is coming up here Labor Day weekend. End of August, beginning of September, and this year on the DEB concert stage, just like every year, you can check out the pre-party that happens on Thursday night before Rocklahoma. If you have a 3-day pass, you can come out for that extra fourth night and check out the DEB concert stage, which features Sebastian Bach, of course, of Skid Row fame, also the mighty Lita Ford, and Trickster. Rocket Science, great friends of this podcast, will also be there as well. Couple members of Trickster have been on this podcast in the past. The bass player of Trickster has been in Fozzy now for several years. Lita Ford has not been on this podcast, unfortunately. Members of Rocket Science have. Mike Tramp of White Line has been on this podcast before, and he'll be headlining one of the nights on the DEB concert stage at Rocklahoma. So will Orianthi. Very excited to get to see her live for the first time. We've also got Van Halen, a great Van Halen tribute, and some other great bands like Paralandria and our great friends who have been on this podcast many times, Dime Store Riot, Fist of Rage, One Night Stand, and many other great bands. Rocklahoma, of course, will feature tons of great sets from people like Bruce Dickinson, Tom Morello, Alice Cooper, Marilyn Manson, Breaking Benjamin, Shinedown. The list is great and long. So check out that at rocklahoma.com. Check out debconcerts.com. And, of course, we keep you up to date right here. And of course, we've also got our final sponsor, speaking of Rocklahoma, Rocklahoma Bitches. They've been an institution at Rocklahoma now for going on 15 years. They started in 2011, and here we are in 2025, still going strong. If you see them out there, they're pretty charitable ladies. They've got tons of merch for Rocklahoma Bitches, and they never charge for a single thing, and they never have, and they say they never will, and I believe them. They'll give you t-shirts, necklaces, koozies, the clear bags that you can carry your stuff into concerts with, all kinds of stuff. They've always got new merch every year, stickers, pics, nipple things, all kinds of great stuff. They also are very charitable in the actual charity sense of the word. They sponsor the Cancer Sucks benefit that happens in Tulsa at the end of every year at the Cain's Ballroom. They're big sponsors on that, big supporters. And also Rocklahoma. Every year, if you're out there, you've seen that Rocklahoma auctions off guitars that are signed by the performing artists that year. And Christy from Rocklahoma Bitches always seems to win one of those guitars. And I've been told in the past by her that some of the guitars she wins, she turns around and redonates them to another charity to auction off. So we're doubling down on the charity here, guys. Rocklahoma Bitches. Follow them on Facebook at Rock Bitch and join their Rocklahoma Bitches Facebook group as well. You can see it tagged wherever you're listening to this podcast. So a huge thanks to both Kendra and Christy for being longtime supporters of this podcast. All right, before we jump into the Buckcherry talk, I just want to mention quickly, I'm not going to give full album reviews, but, every Friday we got some great music coming out. There's been several great albums that have come out here so far in 2025, but two specifically came out last week that I've been listening to consistently, both of them since they came out, and that's the newest album from Volbeat and the newest album from Inglorious. I highly suggest you check out both these albums. Inglorious, if you're not familiar with them, is a band out of England. Nathan James is the vocalist. They're a heavy, hard rock band, but they're extremely blues-based. Think early 80s Whitesnake. And they are so exceptionally good. They're one of those bands that every single album is great. There's no filler, and this album may very well be the best one yet. It's the fifth one, just called 5, and I just hope that at some point, people start to pick up on this band. They've got a little bit of exposure in America throughout the years, but not enough. Volbeat, of course, has got a lot of exposure in America. It took them, quite a while, so maybe that's the path that Inglorious is on as well. Volbeat didn't really get attention in America until they were like on their fifth album or so. And, if I'm being straight up honest, I'm a massive, unabashedly massive fan of Volbeat. But most of that lies in those first 5 albums or so. And the last 3 or 4, I believe this is their 10th album, but their last 3 or 4 are fine. I like them, but I don't really ever go back to them. They didn't grab me the way those early albums did. But this new album is right on par with their early stuff, in my opinion. Several of these songs have the feeling that some of those early songs gave me, and I just absolutely a return to form from the side of Volbeat that I love. Maybe I'm in a minority because, the majority of people that love them love stuff from the last 3 or 4 albums. So, hey, do with that what you will, but I'm just saying this is a fantastic album from Volbeat. But another fantastic album that isn't out, but will be out in just a couple days. It'll be out this Friday, June 13th. If you're not listening to this within a day or two of when this podcast drops, the album's probably already out. Friday the 13th, we get a new album from Buckcherry called Roar Like Thunder. This is their 11th studio album, which is, extremely impressive for any artist to make it that far, 11 studio albums. Buckcherry kicked it off in 1999, and here we are 26 years later with the brand new album. Something we talk about in the episode, or in the interview with Josh, is the fact that Buckcherry has consistently never stepped away from that, putting out a new album every 2 or 3 years. And so many bands in this era, especially bands that have been around that long and had huge success earlier on and could rely on just going out there and surviving off of that success and that nostalgia. Buckcherry, continues to pump out new music, promote their new music, play that music live. They've always been great about, of course, if you go to a Buckcherry show and go see the live show, you're going to hear them play Crazy Bitch and Lit Up and Sorry and the songs that people expect. But they've also been very good throughout the years at throwing in deep cuts or just randomly switching out songs here or there. It's not a stock same 12 songs every night like a lot of bands do. And I've always appreciated that because I'm a massive fan of Buckcherry's first several albums. And, I admittedly kind of, lost it for a little bit. Or I wouldn't say it's because it wasn't good, because Buckcherry has consistently been good. And I really came back strong the last 2 or 3 albums. And maybe that's, the connection that Josh and Stevie have as writers when they include Marty in the mix as well. Marty worked with them on one of my favorite Buckcherry albums, Black Butterfly, which was their 4th album, which I implore you, if you're not familiar with Buckcherry outside of 15, outside of the, the album that has Crazy Bitch on it, and you're listening to this, first check out Roar Like Thunder because it's new and it's showing you where this band's at and if they're still strong as ever. But go back and check out Time Bomb. Go back and check out the first album, hell. Fantastic. Check out Black Butterfly. Check out Confessions. I mean, such a strong album that so many bands of this style wouldn't do. We talk a little bit, just a brief bit about the Fuck EP. And, they're a band that's always staying in the lane that you expect from them. That sleazy, dirty, whiskey-drenched rock and roll that they emulate, the 70s and 80s, that the Stones and Aerosmith developed, and then bands like Guns N' Roses and Junkyard and Cinderella, just kind of took it to another level, and then bands like, Buckcherry carrying it on into a new generation. And here we are, they're still kicking ass, still doing it. The team of Stevie D and Josh Todd has been going strong for over 20 years now. And they're consistently, like I said, putting out solid albums. And like Josh talks about, 10 song albums, with songs that are in and out and to the point. Just pumping them out like bands used to, back in the heyday of rock and roll. So with all that being said, if you're a fan of Buckcherry and you're here, like I said at the beginning, check out episode 321 when this is done. But in the meantime, let's hear what Josh Todd has to say about Buckcherry's new album, Roar Like Thunder, and some other great things. Here is Josh Todd of Buckcherry. Say these 3 singles are a good indication for what people could expect, or how would you describe this album to someone?
Absolutely. All 3 of the songs are great. Roar Like Thunder, Set It Free, and Come On. And, it drops June 13th. If you pre-order it right now, you get those 3 songs right now. But yeah, the record's really great from beginning to end. We set out on this effort to make a really up-tempo record, a rocking record from beginning to end. There's no ballads, no covers. That was kind of our stipulation, and we worked really hard on it, and we're very proud of it.
So no ballads or covers. What was the idea behind that?
We have a lot of them.
Yeah.
So, it was time to we just wanted to rock from beginning to end, and put out a good rock and roll record.
I listened to the album yesterday, and the song that jumped out to me the most was Hello Goodbye. And it's the closest thing, I think, to a ballad, but it also has like it reminds me of early Buckcherry, but also has like a throwback, like maybe 70s, 60s vibe. Like, talk a little bit about that one and the writing process.
Yeah, Hello Goodbye is like a mid-tempo song, and it's very Beatles-ish, that was actually Marty Fredrickson. Me and Marty and Stevie write all the songs, and Marty came in with that song, and it was pretty much done. He had the Hello Goodbye hook, and then I just wrote the rest of the song, all the words around his melodies, and we just loved it. And it's a cool song. A lot of people. I mean, I've been doing a lot of press, and people who have the record think it sounds like Oasis, and I was like, or the Beatles, which is the same thing, But yeah, I like the song a lot.
Yeah, I guess I don't know if that'd be an insult. I mean, Oasis is good, but sure, we want to say the Beatles.
Yeah, I like the Beatles.
Yeah,
but no, Oasis is a good band, but
right. You kind of touched on it, but I did want to ask you. I mean, this is like you guys worked with Marty early on, and this is your 3rd album in a row now with having him back on board. Like, how do you feel that relationship has developed over the past few years?
I just think we're making the best records of our career. We should have never not had him in the fold, and that wasn't because of my opinions, so needless to say, we're glad he's in the fold. It's fun to make records again, and when we get together, it's all about whatever is the best thing for the song. There's no egos or any of that. It's just like oh, this sounds better than that. I don't care where it came from. If it came from you or me or Stevie or whatever, you know what I mean? So we're enjoying it.
You touched on it a bit with Hello Goodbye, but like, is the writing process mostly like you and Stevie and then Marty coming in afterwards, or is he bringing in several ideas like he did with Hello Goodbye, or how's
It
that
happens.
process?
It happens a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Stevie and I will compile a lot of songs and ideas prior to getting in a room with Marty. You know, just so we have a lot of that we've been working the songwriting muscle going into a writing session with him because we work around the clock. You know, because we got to fly to Nashville to write with him. So,
Mm.
you know, we got about 10 days, 2 weeks, well, 10 days usually to write a record with Marty, you know. So it's literally a song a day from scratch, you know. So we're working around the clock. And I like that. I really enjoy that because it's very challenging and I learn a lot. And but you know, we want to have a gang of song ideas and songs going into that session, just in case at the end we maybe need another song or two or whatever, and then Stevie and I'll break out our stuff, and Marty will listen to it and you know kind of pick some things that he thinks are good, and maybe we'll rewrite stuff or whatever. You never know.
So when you guys do those writing sessions, is it literally just the three of you in a room, like just knocking stuff out all day, or how's that work?
Well, we have an assembly line process.
Yeah.
So what we do is we get to Nashville, we kind of go over to Marty's house and powwow, you know, just say hello and talk about what we want to accomplish, and maybe play him some of the demos that Stevie and I created. And then we get kind of an idea of what we're going to do. And then Stevie and Marty go in the following morning and they work up a composition. And then sometimes Marty will have a melody idea that he likes and he'll scat something over it and send me a voice note. And I'll be in the hotel waiting, and I get the material and I start writing lyrics. Oh, and then, you know, I'll write my own melodies. Sometimes I'll like, you know, write over Marty's melodies and he'll say, okay, I like this for the chorus, but take the verse and the, you know, the bridge and do something with it. And then I'll do something with it, you know, or I'll come in with just melodies and lyrics and be like, this is, I'm going to sing you a song and you guys come up with some music to it, but I like it, you know, and it happens all different kinds of ways.
Do you ever write lyrics when you don't have music at all, just when something comes to your head, or do you have like an
Yeah.
ongoing
Like
list?
there's a song on the record. Like I get a lot of melody ideas in the shower. It's weird.
Yeah.
So, wrote a song called Talking About Sex. But didn't think that would fly with rock music anymore because nobody's talking about sex anymore. So it was about Cardi B and like so I made it I love it when you flex because she's always, you know, flexing. You know, she talks about flexing. And so uh I wrote all the melodies and words, and then I sang it to Stevie and I go, listen, I want this thing to be funky and cool and have a good groove. And we wrote the whole song and came in and played it for Marty. And then he was like, why don't you just call it Talking About Sex? And I go, well, that was the original idea, but you know, just didn't know how it would go. And at that same time, I watched the Wham documentary on Netflix, and I was like, wow, man, I had no idea how deep George Michael's talents were. You know, he was a producer, you know, an amazing singer and a great songwriter, you know, and I didn't know all that, you know, and so he had a song, I Want Your Sex, and I always liked it, you know, and I was like, I Want Your Sex, you know, and that's when I started thinking about this song, and so that's how that song kind of came about. It was all a cappella.
Yeah, that was a great documentary.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess that kind of relates to like, did you make a conscious effort throughout the years? Early on with Buck Cherry, of course, Crazy Bitch.
Yeah.
I think off the top of my head, like Too Drunk to Fuck, like all these songs that, relate around sex. And then you kind of stepped away from it for a bit. Was that a conscious effort just because of the changing climate?
No, it's not that at all. Just I just didn't feel it at those
Okay.
times, you know. I just write from my heart, you know, and you know what I mean? And
Well, I guess you had
we're
the
all
Fuck EP in there. So I guess I
yeah,
went off base there.
the fuck EP had no songs about fucking on it though. You know, it was
Yeah,
just
true. Yeah.
the whole premise behind that. We could have done a whole record. It was how many different meanings of the word fuck are there? There's so many, you know, and it's such a great word. And like the the whole formula was it's just got to be in every chorus. So that's how we did it, and and ironically, there's nothing about fucking in there, So, but it was a great EP, and really, really love that part of the Buckcherry catalog for sure.
You guys have, like you said, the three singles out. You guys just finished this run with Steel Panther. Are you guys playing these new songs live yet?
All of them, all three of them.
Okay.
Yeah, we're really enjoying it. They're going off amazing live, especially Come On, And
Yeah.
we just played Set It Free for the first time at the last show, and that was amazing. It is such a great song. And we're really enjoying this process, I can't wait for it to hit the streets.
Well, you mentioned Come On catching on pretty quick, but how long does it take normally for you to notice a crowd catching on to new material, like as a whole?
I mean, you can tell
Yeah.
when people have done their homework and they've been listening to it on the internet, and they're well, but Buckcherry songs are very easy to start figuring out, in the moment too. So like you can tell when people don't know "Come On," and then by the second chorus they're chanting "Come On," with everybody else, and so it just they pick it up pretty quickly, and then it becomes fun because they know what they're doing, they know what's coming.
Right. Well, you guys, have always kind of continued throughout your career of the maybe 2 to 3 year album cycle, last several years, every 2 years, kind
Yep.
of now in a time period where a lot of bands have shifted to just singles or EPs or even bigger gaps between their albums. So what is it that keeps your drive going to constantly put out new music like this?
I mean, it just feels right. You tour for 2 years and you're just tired of, you're just exhausted, and the performing. I mean, I love to perform, but the travel and everything, you're worn out, and you're ready to create again. At least it's just cyclical with me. It's like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to write. I got stuff in me. I want to do this. And I got into this to be a working musician, and I have it. And so I'm not going to give it up. I want to continue to thrive. I want to work that muscle. I don't know how people go away for years and years and years and don't make a record, and then they put out a record, and it's, maybe there's one or two good songs and that's it. I'm not interested in that. I want to, if I'm making records, I want to make records on a consistent basis.
Yeah, it's one thing I've definitely always appreciated about you is that, you're definitely, a band that could, rest on nostalgia, but you don't. And there's so many bands out there that do that. So, from a
Yeah,
fan
it's
standpoint,
they
it's good to
they
see.
get lazy. They get
Yeah.
lazy,
Right.
and I feel like I'm I want to remain teachable in my life. I'm always learning more about my voice, more about melody, more about songwriting every time I go in there and build something from nothing. So, I mean, that's exciting for me.
Well, like you said, learning more about songwriting, this far into your career and your life, like what is it, now at your age that inspires you different when you're writing than it would have, say, in the 90s, 30 years ago?
I mean, I'm just maturing. I'm learning more about the human condition, and that's really what songs are about. They're short stories about emotion. You know what I mean? And but the same things apply. Aggressive song. You want to write aggressive lyrics about some kind of thing that is making you mad. Or that you really want to express, like how frustrated you are with, and there's songs on that like Let It Burn and Roar Like Thunder. It's really about the rat race that we're in, and how everybody gets information now. It's just like information highway, and everybody's attention span is very short, and like, and people are really awful and mean to each other, and they say it every day, and social media is toxic, and all those things. It's like, um, that makes me mad. I want to, and so if I get an aggressive song that's fast paced, and I want to write about those topics, and then you get a mid tempo song. I start reminiscing about my youth, and when I was a teenager, and how fun it was to party and go to fucking house parties, and when I was a musician for the first time, and that's what Blackout is about. I was a blackout drinker. I could not hold my liquor. I'm a skinny guy. I've always been skinny just by nature, and So I would black out when I drink, and when it started happening, it was funny, because you'd have funny stories and your friends would fucking break your balls and all that kind of shit. And that's kind of what the song's about. Then it got really dark, and I had to do something about it. But um, but that's my favorite song on the record, by the way, is Blackout. But stuff like that. That's what keeps me, going. And and then I listen to people, when I go out. I don't like to socialize. I'm not a very social guy, but I like to go to social situations and just be quiet and listen to people talk and interact with each other. It's interesting to me. And I will pick up a phrase and I'll write it down. I will pick up a word or something that sounds cool, and I have a whole list of like titles, and I read a lot of books as well, because that's the best way to learn about storytelling, which is when you're lyric writing is storytelling, except in a very uh you know short condensed way. But I totally envy people that can write good books, so all that, when I finally get something and I need to write a song, I got a lot of stuff that I just need to put it together, just a lot of pieces to the puzzle.
Do you do the same thing with album titles? Like, is Roar Like Thunder something that's been in your head a while, or is that like, do you just wait until you have a song that sounds like this should be the title track?
No, there's a interesting story behind this whole record. And the first song was going to be Let It Burn, and the name of the record was going to be Let It Burn. And at this time, uh, the problem with that was Los Angeles was burning up,
Mhm.
and I'm a native Californian, and it was awful. I live here my whole life, and a lot of people lost their homes, their livelihoods. Is very, very brutal time in Los Angeles history, and of course, Let It Burn is nothing about any of that. We wrote it way before that, but it just did not feel right to come out with that, and so we had to shift and go to plan B. And actually, Roar Like Thunder was my manager's first. Uh, that's what he first wanted for the title of the record. And we kind of marinated on that for a while. And we always loved the song Roar Like Thunder and thought that it was going to eventually be a single. But we had to shift gears, and that was it. We moved, we changed the sequence, and Roar Like Thunder was first. And you know what? It worked out totally the way it should have, because it reacted really well right out of the box, and it's so fun to sing. And now we just made a live video for Let It Burn, so that'll get released later on down the line, at the right time. You know what I mean? So that's kind of interesting backstory.
So was that the decision to push Let It Burn to be the final track, or did it just feel that way
No,
on the album?
no, it was like originally it was Let It Burn first and Roar
Yeah.
Like Thunder last, and we just switched them
Okay.
because we just wanted to end the record with a bang, with a really aggressive song,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like because Let It Burn is probably my second favorite song on there besides Hello Goodbye. And I think you guys have always kind of done that, had a stamp like as the final song. To me, a lot
Yeah,
of times, bands just throw shit on the end of an album. And your
yeah.
guys like end of the album is just as good as the beginning.
Thank you. Yeah, that's why I only want to make 10-song records for the rest of my life, because I
Yeah.
mean, making 15-song records and it just you're always going to have filler on there, unless you write for like 2 years, to get every song being a gem. And you know what? Even if it was, nobody's going to sit down and listen to 14 tracks at one time. They
Right.
just don't. They just don't. You can hardly get people to listen to two songs in a row. So uh, it's just the right length of time to make a banger.
Yeah. Well, on a fan note, going back to those long albums, my favorite Buckcherry album has always been Time Bomb. And probably my
Yeah,
favorite track on there is Place in the Sun. Like, do you
yeah.
have memories on like the writing process or that or anything, or is that too far gone for you?
I can't really remember the writing process, but I do. I really love that guitar riff. I really love that song. And just like you, it's one of my favorite Buckcherry records, because I feel like it's a great record and it's a hidden gem. Some people don't even know it exists,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that's why I like it so much.
Yeah, and that lyric, never pick up the phone, kind of plays more today than it did back then, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Speaking on
for
the
sure.
social media stuff you were talking about earlier.
Yep, yep,
But
yeah,
so last time I talked to you was coming out of the pandemic. It was 2021. And you
Hmm.
had mentioned how during the pandemic you were singing a full Buckcherry set in your house every day to keep your voice going. Like, how long did you
Yep.
continue that once you were able to? Was it up until you were able to do live shows again, or
No, it's every other day, and I do it to this day. I
oh, you
haven't
still
stopped
do it? Okay.
for 25 years straight. I haven't taken more than 2 days off of singing
Oh wow.
for 25 years straight, unless I was so incredibly sick I couldn't sing. So that's just it. I mean, uh, it just that's the way it works for me. You know what I mean? If I get too far away from it, it's very hard to sing uh, a headlining Buckcherry set. Especially, I'm 54. You know, wrote some of these songs when I was mid 20s. So you know what I mean. I have to really be in shape. It's got to really be easy for me. You know what I mean? And repetition for me is the mother of skill. So if I'm singing it a lot, then I don't have to think about it that much when I hit the stage, because when you finally get to stage, a lot of other things come into play. And this is adrenaline. Um, you know what I mean? When you're in front of people, it's a whole different burn process as far as your energy goes. So um yeah, that's why I practice a lot. But I feel like my voice changed dramatically when I hit 40, right? So I had to really kind of reteach myself how to sing this stuff and really work on vocal technique. And so because of that, I need a lot of practice with this new technique. And now it's been, over a decade, and I'm very comfortable with it now. But it took me a while to get through that.
That kind of plays into another question I had, which I work music festivals for a living, and I was doing artist relations at a gig that you guys played, and you guys were on the stage I was working, and I was driving you to the stage, and I asked you a question and you didn't
Ah,
answer, and I was like, okay, I guess he doesn't want to talk, and then you held
oh,
up
did I
your
have my
phone and
in-ears in?
you had said sorry, not trying to be an asshole, but I don't speak before I play, and so I was just
Yes.
curious, is like how long or what point do you cut that off?
Oh, wow. That is the truth. And sorry, I didn't,
Oh no, no.
this is the thing that I was taught by my vocal coach. Um, talking is one thing, vocalizing is one thing, and singing is one thing. So I will vocalize before I sing. And so I get out of my speaking voice, I get into my vocalizing voice, and then I get into my singing voice. And then I have to go down those steps to get back to my speaking voice. So, like,
Mm.
I will do scales, then I wait, then I sing, then I do scales after the show, then I talk, you know?
Oh
So
wow.
that's what works for me. I mean, I can talk after my scales, but I don't want to get in that mode because I am so focused on like hitting my marks, what I got to do when I hit the stage. And I do incantations in my head. I have a whole thing I go through before I get on stage to become that animal, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's a process for me, and I'm a creature of habit, and it's really not about um, being mean. It's just my process. I don't want to be around anybody until the show's over.
So is that process like, is it easy for you to adapt if it's say like a headline set compared to going on at a festival a few hours earlier where you got to like shift what you're doing earlier in the day, or is it kind of natural to you?
I mean, I have all different kinds of ways to manage that. Like you're saying, like, okay, I'm doing a festival stage. Okay, we're going on at 4 p.m. or we're usually going on at 11.
Yeah.
And so though that's challenging. So you know what I have to do? I have to get up a little earlier, and I vocalize like after maybe 2 hours awake. I'll do like light scales, to kind of just get my voice limber and flexible, you know what I mean, before I actually go into my scales for the show. And then I'll eat some food, whatever I do, work out, drink a lot of room temp water, and then by the time I have to do my scales again, I feel really good. And then I just do the same process as far as vocalizing, sing, warm down, talk.
Gotcha. Well, kind of another kind of throwback question I had for you was last time you were on, Billy was still pretty new in the band, and you had mentioned let's check back in a couple years because that's about the point where people realize how hardworking this band is. So here we are, 4 or 5 years past that. So like, Obviously, Billy's doing a great job in the band. What are your thoughts
He
on
is.
how he's developed into Buckcherry?
You know what? Billy is a warrior. He's a warrior. He's wearing me out, and I wear people out, I mean, as far as never complains. I'm very excited to play his instrument, loves rock and roll. He also has his business, Rock and Roll Relics, where he makes guitars. He's very talented in that way. And he's always promoting his business out there too, meeting new guitar players and getting them great guitars, you know what I mean? So he's his whole life is rock and roll, and so he loves it. And yeah, he's just a lovely person to be around. And like you said, he's, I think, 4 years now. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, looking forward the rest of the year. You guys are, Buckcherry is one of those bands that's always touring, but I noticed you got added to that Field of Dreams show, and as a big fan of that movie, I just think that'd be a really cool experience. Do you have any relation to caring about that movie, or is it just another gig to you?
Field of Dreams, the baseball movie
Yeah,
with like Kevin Costner or something.
yeah,
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen it.
uh,
So, but I do love baseball, and because the Dodgers are kicking so much ass, I've really kind of gotten back into baseball. And Stevie, my guitar player, his son is a really great baseball player, Jed, and they're going everywhere every weekend. And, he's playing a lot of games, and so Stevie's like really into baseball, and he got me back into baseball. And so yeah, playing at that stadium, I guess that's where we're playing there, right?
yeah.
Like,
It's like the field where the movie was filmed, or where
yeah,
the
yeah,
movie
yeah,
was
yeah,
filmed. Yeah,
yeah. So that's gonna be a lot of fun for us. But I think for Stevie especially.
right on, man. Well, I'm absolutely loving the new album and looking forward to seeing it again live this year.
Thank you. And you got to see Lion too. This is my love of my life, my
Yeah,
dog. Yeah.
absolutely.
All right, man. Good talking with you. Thanks for the love on the record. I appreciate it.
There you go, Josh Todd of Buckcherry. A huge thank you to Tim from Adam Splitter PR for his continued support of this podcast throughout all these years. And of course, a massive thank you there to Josh Todd for hitting me up on Zoom, taking some time out here to talk to me about all kinds of stuff. But most importantly, for Buckcherry and for Buckcherry fans, is the fact that Roar Like Thunder is out this Friday, June 13th, Friday the 13th. It doesn't have to be, all scary and horror and all that kind of stuff, right? It can be fun, energetic rock and roll this Friday the 13th. So do that. This Friday, hit it up right now. If you're listening to this before Friday, they've already got 4 singles out. A couple of them, the title track, Roar Like Thunder, has been out a while now. Great song. All 4 of the singles are great, and I'll tell you why. Because, as we kind of talked about there in that interview, this whole album is great. The hashtag that has been attached to this podcast since pretty much near the beginning, when Jason started saying it a lot and we kind of went with it, is hashtag all killer, no filler. And this album, I believe, is very much an indication of that. If you like Buckcherry at any point in their career, in your time of loving music, there's no way you won't love this new album. Hello Goodbye is a fantastic song. The final song, like we talked about there, Let It Burn, is fantastic. Machine Gun is the current single. Fantastic. So much great stuff. Come On. He talked about that. That is a song that I think will probably be stuck in the Buckcherry live repertoire in the set list. I think it'll be one of those songs that kind of make it in there moving forward years from now. What's the right word? A concert staple, I guess, is the word I'm looking for here. Set It Free is another single that's been out that is a fantastic song. But like I said, this album, check out the last couple albums. Well, not just the last couple. Check them all out. If you've kind of been loosely a fan, like I said early on, I would suggest you hit up Time Bomb and Black Butterfly specifically, but also hit up that Fuck EP, hit up Hellbound, hit up Confessions, hit up all of it. So just do that. Buckcherry, like I said early on, like I've said 3 times now, I think, Josh Todd was on here for the first time, episode 321. A couple things I'll mention now. Wasn't going to mention it beforehand because the subject at hand is the new interview, but I'll say a couple things we talked about on the last one that we didn't on this one was that if you're listening to this podcast and you're from the area I am, which is Oklahoma. I brought up Oklahoma because I had seen a photo, an old photo of Buckcherry where Josh Todd was wearing a University of Oklahoma shirt. So I brought that up to him, and he, actually had roots here in Oklahoma. Whereas, he's a California kid, California lifer pretty much. But he spent like full summers in Oklahoma working on the farm with his grandparents. So he has a ton of experience, out here in the Midwest, in Oklahoma specifically. So that was really cool to hear. Some other things we talked about that, just kind of outside of the current things. It's always fun to kind of dive into that. I know I brought up Time Bomb on that interview just like this one, because that really is one of those albums for me. It's like when I think of just pure hard rock, basically since the turn of the century here, going on the past 25 years, I would put Buckcherry's Time Bomb in the top 10 of hard rock albums, hands down. So check that out. Check out everything, but specifically here, check out Roar Like Thunder coming out this Friday. All right, if this is your first time listening, or you only listen every once in a while, man, you got a lot of stuff you could check out. 422 episodes prior to this one. So besides that previous Josh Todd one, there's been episodes with members of Three Doors Down, Seven Dust, Saliva, Hellstorm, Shinedown, Pop Evil, Candlebox, Twisted Sister, Queensryche, Corrosion and Conformity, Hatebreed, Killswitch Engage, Guns N' Roses, Tesla, Motley Crue, Megadeth, Kiss. Yeah, Gene Simmons of Kiss has been on here. Vanilla Ice. Yep, Vanilla Ice has been on here. Shooter Jennings. I know that's kind of random with everything else I've said, but that's happened. Members of Breaking Benjamin. Keith Wallen has been on here a couple times. Members of Lynyrd Skynyrd. Whitesnake. Living Colour. Helmet. Prong. White Zombie. Typo Negative. Slaughter. LA Guns. Thin Lizzy. The list, my friends, is pretty freaking massive. 400, like I said, 400 plus episodes before this. They span from someone like John Waite of Bad English clear up to the Black Dahlia murder. So we, span the gamut of styles of rock, styles of metal. So hit up thethunderunderground.com. You can listen to everything right there. You can also listen pretty much anywhere podcasts are heard, wherever you're listening right now. Hit like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is, so you get updated and stay in the loop on future episodes. Follow on YouTube at The Thunder Underground. On all the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Threads. What am I forgetting? YouTube, right? All those. There's a lot of content that shows up on those that is separate from these podcast episodes, but all the podcast episodes are on there as well. Anytime you see a post or anything, if you just like it, comment, share. That's a easy, free way to help out this podcast. You can also buy merch, t-shirts, koozies, stickers, shot glasses, all that great stuff. More stuff to be coming soon as well. All right, I'll quit rambling about that and let you know that coming up next, Richie Cavalera of Insight will be back on the podcast. Richie's been on here twice before, but the most recent time was almost 9 years ago. So we had a lot of catching up to do. They've got some great new heavy metal coming out very soon. They've got some singles out already, so hit those up. But we'll be talking all about that with Richie on the next episode, and then have a couple interviews scheduled as well. And as soon as those are recorded, I'll announce them. All right. Once again, a massive thank you to Rocklahoma Bitches, DEB Concerts, Sunset Tattoo, Adam Splitter PR, and of course, Josh Todd of Buckcherry. Until next time.
Thunder Underground, y'all.